Now, I'm proud that the Victorian Government has largely led the national debate on the benefits of switching to modern electric appliances. Through our Victorian Energy Upgrades program, the biggest of its kind in the country, you can now fully electrify your home with discounts on every major appliance, from water heaters, space heating and induction cooktops. Of course, it's difficult to move away from the way we've delivered energy for many decades in this state. However, we simply have no other option. Over 80% of Victorian homes are connected to the reticulated gas network. The next biggest state is New South Wales, which I think is around about 50%. Since 2014, gas prices for Victorian families and businesses have risen at 5 times the rate of electricity. Every indicator suggests that gas prices are not going to come down, despite the significant and successful efforts taken to bring on new domestic supply. And this is why we're continuing to explore options to gradually reduce gas usage through a balanced mix of incentives and regulation. As many of you will know, we've been holding an extended public consultation on options to require broken down gas space heating and hot water systems, that is end of life, to be replaced with efficient electric alternatives when they break down, of course, and they're not repairable. We know we need to strike the balance right to ensure that the upfront costs to comply are reasonable, while ensuring that as many Victorians as possible can enjoy the benefits of efficient electric appliances through lower energy bills. Now, the consultation has been a thoroughly productive process in which the community, various parts of industry, the environment movement, civil society and other important stakeholders have had their say. This is an important step to protect energy users from higher bills, while also reducing fossil gas consumption and preserving the remaining lower cost Victorian supply for industry. Yes, Victorian gas is still the lowest in the country in terms of cost of gas. Now, this brings me to Victoria's industrial users and the important role that gas continues to play. The Allen Government knows that gas is a critical feedstock for much of Victoria's manufacturing and industrial base. We have benefited from that over many decades. By reducing demand in the household sector, we will preserve more Victorian gas, which is cheaper, for Victoria's industrial users. And that means that Victorian gas, which is the cheaper, will be in our system and available to industry for longer. This is the cheapest gas in the country. The less we need to rely on more expensive imported gas from other states or even globally is really an important goal here. This will maintain downward pressure on prices and maintain Victoria's energy competitiveness compared to other states upon which our industrial sector was built. Pretending there is some bonanza source of conventional gas that has been locked up by the government is just a cruel myth. Leaning on that is simply ignoring and doing nothing on the real challenges and the opportunities. There is no ban on conventional onshore or offshore gas exploration on Victorian land or in Victorian waters. Any suggesting otherwise is blatant disinformation and should be called out for what it is. And while we are talking about methods of gas exploration in Victoria, I think it is important that I briefly touch on fracking. Fracking is the only form of gas exploration that is banned in Victoria. That ban was enshrined in Victorian Constitution in a bipartisan commitment. And that was to recognise the keen concerns of farming communities across the state and environmental concerns. So, any individual or political party who opposes these settings or who intends to overturn the ban should be transparent with Victorians and just say that's what they're going to do. So, unlike some other states, our government is not for turning on this issue. We're proud to stand with farmers, regional communities and the tourism sector to preserve Victoria's pristine natural environment and natural resources, because we know that we can ensure reliable and secure supplies of gas while preserving and enriching our environment and world-class agricultural sector.
I want to hone in on the role of gas, which you obviously talked about a bit, and I'm interested to hear a bit about how you're thinking about the sort of seasonality issues. I mean, we heard how important in the last panel firming of renewables is, that from the electricity market modelling I've seen, is most likely to be needed during winter. That's also when demand for gas for heating is highest. So how you see that sort of deal, what needs to be done to enable the gas market to meet higher demand in winter?
A really great question, because we can't just talk about increasing supply without understanding when you need it. So we need increased supply at the right times. If we miss that, then you can do all you like in terms of talking about the average supply, but if it's not there when you need it most, then that is a critical problem. So we understand certainly that in Victoria, we have a fairly significant peak gas demand period in the winter period, which is an obvious thing to say. And what we are very keenly pursuing in our state is a number of things. One is, last year we passed legislation in the Victorian Parliament to allow for the storage of gas, increase our capacity for storage in state offshore waters, and that enables a business like Beach Energy to be able to use it to be able to give us that additional supply that's available during those winter peak periods. That effectively will deliver an additional increase our capacity by a further half of storage of gas that we have in our state. So that's a really important step that we took. What we are also looking at is considering whether it would be advantageous to consider potentially some upgrades at particular points of the existing gas network where there may be limitations in terms of capacity, so that we can have greater confidence of more freely having gas moving across all parts of our state. So it goes where it's needed. The way that our gas network in Victoria has been developed doesn't necessarily lend itself to that right now. So we're keen to understand that better, and if we need to move on that, we will do that. The other element, of course, and that's on the demand side, exploration licences. I've talked about that. We had our first gas production licence issued by myself, in fact, the first one in 10 years, just last year. The demand side is really critical here too. So if we, with a focus on the winter peak, if we can provide greater opportunity for Victorians to switch away from gas heating, space heating in the winter period, to electric heating, that removes a significant or reduces significantly that winter peak period. So and we've got programs in place that provide the discounts, so that really Victorians shouldn't necessarily have any additional upfront cost to be able to make those choices for themselves. So there's some of the things that we're doing to ensure that we can manage those peak periods of winter.
Yeah, so it's a combination of approaches across storage, across networks, across production, and of course managing demand.
Absolutely. And for people who might think, well, demand is a little bit tangential, it's not. You can very much calculate decisively on what you can gain through clear policy and program activities by government. You can actually effectively produce as much or free up as much gas as you could potentially with some new production coming online. So we need to see that as an equivalent, as an important part of the whole picture.
I just want to finish before I let everyone go to morning tea with just one other question. Was we heard from Professor Roscano about Australia's clean energy export opportunities. Just like briefly, where you see those opportunities for Victoria and the sort of regional opportunities.
Yeah. I really thank Ross. Ross is always a really fantastic thought leader and a businessman too, the practical side of things. This is something that our government is always got a keen eye on, especially with our focus on the development of offshore wind energy. We have our targets for achieving 9 gigawatts of offshore wind electricity production by 2040, and that could very easily, I think, over a period of time, lend itself to assist with the production of export, for export in terms of hydrogen. So I really do want to just refer to Brett's comments earlier about the reality of if demand's not there, then you can push and push all you like in terms of incentives to get hydrogen production happening in Australia and in Victoria. But we do need to look at other means to create a responsive market for the production. That's why we've got to focus on this renewable industrial gas guarantee, working out, how do we get those incentives right? And there's no silver bullet. There's a combination of approaches that we need. So we're very keen as a state to prioritise, number one, ensuring that we've got the sufficient domestic supply of energy to meet our needs, to achieve our decarbonisation agenda, and to ensure that we can deliver the secure, reliable, affordable electricity and alternative gas supply that we need. And of course, the opportunities in terms of export potential through hydrogen production is one that we can certainly see could be very much an important part of our energy mix in Victoria, but also our industrial opportunity.
But you need the demand there for it to be commercially
You need the demand
viable.
there possible, and that's why, for example, having a scheme that helps to incentivise the production of gas is really important. Whilst Victoria is focusing on that scheme that we'll legislate for by next year, I'm also advocating at a national level, and I think there is a degree of interest amongst all energy ministers and the Commonwealth